Hi, everyone. Journal 70 today. Journal 70, Saturday, January 20th, 2024, in defense of bad and average writing days. Hi, everyone. On very occasional occasions, maybe once every couple of months, I have a writing day that is so productive, the excitement of my triumph accompanies me into the wee hours. I lie in bed all night, pickling in a brine of satisfaction. And so the whole next day is ruined by my sleeplessness. And the whole next month is ruined by disappointing comparison. I mean, I managed to write a few hundred words and revise a few hundred more, but that's nothing compared to 2 Saturdays ago. I become obsessed. Anything shy of 2 Saturdays ago fails to satisfy. My mind is fixed on that day. So I begin courting it like a love-struck teenager. Except instead of bouquets of flowers, it's cups of coffee. Instead of bad poetry, it's a dash of tyrosine in my tea. And instead of chocolate, well, it's still chocolate, but because of the theobromine, though. It's not the kind of chocolate that would be warmly received by a Valentine. Like the infatuated teenager, these are but a few of the tricks I use to seduce the target of my affections. Unlike the teenager, my target isn't a classmate who feels discomfited by the attention. The creature whose heart and soul I seek to lay a swoon is a curvy muse, a magical writing day, in other words. But like the teenager, my pining is pointless, because when has proactive lusting ever been requited? On those very occasional occasions when it does work, the meeting of my muse never ends happily. I could make a VD joke, but let's keep it PG and say it's not the lover it's cracked up to be. Let's speak on less creepy terms. My utterly unromantic chemical augmentation of attention does not make me more prolific in the end. After dedicating 2 decades to the effort, I finally realized the combined accomplishment of two pretty good writing days exceeds that of a single magical day. Plus, if I divvy the word count over 48 hours, I don't suffer any side effects. So, pretty good days have become my preference. What about bad writing days, though? No one has ever asked me that, but people have asked, what lessons have you learned while writing this book? And how has your writing changed as you've gotten older? And the answer to both of those portrays my fondness for the bad days. Let's start with age. My writing does change as I get older, in the way that seasoned athletes aren't as nimble as they once were. To remain competitive, they have to play the game smarter. For me, age is compounded by chronic illness. I'm not as quick to the draw as I was when I was 25. But as a form of compensation, my aim is truer, fewer shots fired, but the DPS is the same. So, what have I learned while writing this book? A lot, because I've been writing it for a long time. When I started way back in olden times, I used to confuse Valentine's Day with Groundhog Day, which led to some awkward gift exchanges. Today, I never mix them up anymore. But that's not the intention of anyone's question. So here's an important, pertinent lesson I've learned. It's what you do with your bad days that counts. A huge home run every other month feels nice, but it doesn't win a World Series. Or the big, spectacular pass in football, or the deep three-pointer in basketball. Those all feel good, but they aren't the game. They're just courting a feeling. Similarly, a muse is more of an amusement than an asset, a cheerleader on the sidelines, distracting you from the actual play. And the high school quarterback who wins the heart of the cheerleader probably loses the game. The end. End, comma. I used to go to, I'll explain that. When I used to go to these record stores all the time in the 90s, and I look for a band like the Smashing Pumpkins was always filed in the S's. It would be Smashing Pumpkins, comma, the, or like The Cure would be Cure, comma, the. And so I had this aspiration, I had this dream that I would create a band called The Song of like the song of the. And so if it made a record store, that's part of my dream, it would be filed away as song of the, comma, the. There'd be three thes in a row. And so there was this book that came out. I'm getting sidetracked, but there was this book that came out when I was a master's student at the time. So I was maybe a little bit old for the demographic of people. The target audience wasn't quite me, but it was King Dork by Frank Portman. And I actually went to San Francisco. He was there and I met it. I did a drawing. I drew this picture and I gave it to him. That story is an even bigger distraction. But the point is, and maybe I'll tell it another time, but the point is the protagonist in that book had all of these ideas and dreams about bands and band names and album names and designs and things like that that he hadn't done. And I was the same way. In the 90s, I had all these plans. Like so, but my plans were different. My plans weren't what other people. So like one of mine was called the Itchy Puddings, and it was going to be a cover band, exclusively cover band. And we would play it like at bars, like bars that smell like spilled beer and piss, like one of those bars. And we would play nothing but commercial jingles, like no hit songs. It would just be like, I mean, like insurance companies always have bad, impressive. So like the I think like Nationwide is on your like that thing, and like Liberty, 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 the one that just goes on and on. Like the Wiener, Oscar Mayer, like the Folgers song. The best part of waking up. What like our hit song would be Toys R Us, right? Toys R Us, that would be our hit, and the one everyone would boo to, that like all the drunk people spilling their beer would boo to, would be the Klondike Bar song. Like, and so that was my dream. And then like another one was the Salted Slugs. This was another, band idea that I had. And it would be the most depressing, like the saddest screamo band in the world, because we're speaking on behalf of the slugs who can't speak for themselves. And this one wouldn't be a cover band, it would be all originals. But we would record an album, and 100% of the audio in the album is 100% panned right. And so it's all in the right speaker, all of it, right? Except for the snare drum. The snare drum is 100% panned left, and it's played like sort of sparsely, intermittently, and really loud and just out of the left ear. And then somehow the Salted Slugs, we would have concerts, and there'd be people in the concert, in the attendance, like fans, right? Fans. And I would spend the entire concert shushing people, like because of my sensitive hearing. And so if any audience member cheered, right? Or like sang along with one of the songs, or clapped. If there was a clap in the audience, I would just berate them. I'm like, I said, keep it down, like that stuff. Like, I have sensitive ears. And I would do that. And the encore would be sort of summoned in the silence. So that was another dream of mine. But like today, these days, not in olden times, but these days, all of my dreams are about writing. And I have come to appreciate the bad days in writing. I've come to value the average days and appreciate the bad days for their contribution to the sum total of the product, to the actual amassing the book. The bulk of it is average and bad days. But that doesn't mean I've totally given up on my apothecarial interventions. I mean, there's tyrosine in this tea. And so I do still control my like methylxanthines, caffeine and theobromine and like even theophylline. And I take coffee berry supplements. And like what the tyrosine does, it's an ingredient for catecholamines, like dopamine and epinephrine and stuff like that. And so it's just for the attention. I used to use alcohol a long time ago, but alcohol is just too messy. The heart rate variability gets messed up, sleep gets, all this stuff gets messed up. And so, THC is better. I've talked about this in an earlier journal, but historically, all of these interventions were aimed at achieving a peak of focus and creativity, sort of two peaks in one. This massive peak of these things for the quality of the work. But then I realized you get this peak and you always tumble down the mountain. The next day is a valley every time. And over the years, I learned that the ups and downs don't amount to more, to a better or more expansive product than just getting halfway up the mountain and maintaining that sort of mid-altitude, steady attention and the creativity. You can still be like super creative in that spot. So that's my goal of all this maintenance now of my interventions. Um, okay, that's like it. That's all I have to say. But I hope that your um, creative altitude and your focus altitude are perfect to maximize your own productivity and that you're prolific in all the most satisfying ways and without side effects. Okay, bye everyone. I'll see you next time.